Hey everyone, welcome back to another painting from life, oil painting from life with East Oak Studio. We're super excited. Sorry we were running a little behind and trying to get everything set up today. If you can notice, I don't even have my mic on quite yet, but really excited. Tonight we're going to be painting Christian. He's one of our housemates here, and his wife is one of our painters here at East Oak Studio. And we're super excited about having him paint with us or model for us tonight. And it's just going to be me and Alex. As always, we'd love to hear from y'all wherever you are in the world, and we really look forward to spending some time together. I have not uploaded the images yet. I am working on the reference images, so just give me about 5 minutes while we get started, and I'll get those loaded up so that y'all can paint along. So until then, Alex is going to kind of keep us entertained. We're going to have the camera on him until I get the images up on the website. As always, if you go to our website, put in your email, it'll give you access to all the reference images from all the painting from lives that we've done up thus far. So happy painting, and we're looking forward to having you join us. All right, Alex, you talk along, and I'm going to get these images up.
Cool. Do we want to set up a timer?
Yeah, I've got it.
No.
It's done.
Cool.
So Alex, what are you thinking of this beginning part?
Where I want the head to be. I don't really know quite yet. I'm just thinking of like the tilt back of the top of the head and then the tilt down of the face.
Alif says, hey, watching from Istanbul, really excited to see the whole process as I am just a beginner.
That's awesome.
And also we have Zed, who's awake from London.
There's a lot of foreshortening happening because he's looking forward, so I'm just making some marks and then trying to think about that and make sure I'm taking it into consideration.
What do you find the main differences between drawing with a pencil and a paintbrush?
That's a good question. I mean, it's way different. Just everything about it is different. You're working with like something liquid instead of hard graphite or charcoal. It's way more unpredictable. harder to erase. Once I lay in some of this and get like a general kind of sense of what I'm doing, I'll be able to give better answers. Just trying to get something started. Just checking some tilts. Since it's so foreshortened, I'll probably check where my halfway point is in a second here. But right now I'm just trying to see the envelope of his head without any of the features or anything. See where halfway is.
Oscar says, ever tried painting straight away with mass without placing linear proportions? That's the way Sargent apparently painted.
Yeah, I mean, I used to paint like that a lot more. I was almost thinking about doing that tonight until the until I knew it was going to be foreshortened. If it was kind of just flat, I was sort of going to think about doing that, but maybe I'll try and not do much drawing or not get everything with the drawing first and just attack the painting. Let's see. Seems like the halfway point is like the middle of his forehead.
All right, everyone, I'm back. I put up the images on the website, so if you want to go check on the reference images, they are there. I will say that typically we have them side by side. However, I was trying to do it as quick as possible, so they're like on top of each other, one on top of the other, and then later I will like switch them to where they look cleaner and easier to see side to side. But I just wanted to get them up as quick as possible so that anyone who wanted to paint along could. Now I will join Alex in starting to block in. How much time do we have left on the first session?
12 minutes. Oh, 8 minutes.
Okay. All right. So Christian is actually applying to PA school right now. So he's wanting to be a physician's assistant. So we're rooting for him that he might be able to find a school around here so that they can stay around with us for a while. Really have enjoyed having them here. So I think he had a big interview today. So we hope that went well. It's so funny because these days everything's online and, you know, people are like, you get dressed up, and so Christian was coming down in his suit And it's so funny because I wonder how many people are actually just wearing just a suit on, on the upper half and PJs on the lower. Let's see.
Amos Chan says, "Hi Alex, how much time do you spend on painting the background in your larger work? Do you paint it loosely with some random fluctuations in tone and warmth, or do you keep repainting it?"
So I paint it very kind of loosely and broadly at first, and then I'll go in a second layer and sort of repaint it and try and leave some of that freshness and underpainting there, but still have enough paint to where it feels solid and not just like a wash or something. So it's kind of half and half.
Mm-hmm. I always have to be careful because oftentimes I hum when I'm like getting myself ready. And then I realize that, well, everyone's listening into my humming today. So I try to like hold it down to a minimum. All right, let's see. I always feel like I have to make final adjustments. It's funny because at the very beginning you're like trying so hard to like block everything in that you find yourself not talking much, and then switch this around so that little bit of extra paint, because I cut this panel and it was a painting on the other side, but we have a little bit of extra paint there.
Benjamin Lester says, "Humming is relaxing, hum away."
Hum away.
Careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Ismail says, "Hello from the Bronx in New York. I love Alex's brush holder. Is that standard from Edge Pro, or did you get it elsewhere?"
These people didn't even put their name brand on it.
Oh man.
I won some competition a long time ago and got it, but I do not think it's Edge Pro gear. I would just look up like brush clip on like any art website. It'll probably come up. Brush holder, brush clip. But yeah, it totally comes in handy. And it kind of looks like it's an Edge Pro gear thing.
We're so happy that Christian lives here because this was kind of a last minute thing, and so we were like, well, where are we going to get a model? Christian's like, I'll do it. I'm like, yes. Because he's going to make a great model too, I can tell already. Like a statue. For all of you out there who's modeled, y'all know it's not easy.
So Lewis, what's some things you've been working on since the last live stream?
I have been working on a lot of commission work lately because it's funny, it's just like a lot of people, for some reason, we've been making this joke that like there's been a lot of people that have been staring at their walls lately and they're like, oh, I need some artwork on my walls. So we've had quite a few people, selling their work a lot and ordering more commission work. And so the great thing is it feels like the artist side of things that people are wanting to not stare at boring walls. So is that light back there putting any glare on you?
I can't tell yet.
Okay.
At the moment, it's not. But
I might turn it off here in a little bit. We have a warm light in the background just to set the mood. And but I'm finding that it might be like just right to hit my canvas.
So Zed Anwar asks, how do I copy Repin's style of painting? I find he's similar to Sargent in the way that he nails the values and keeps the brushstrokes loose.
Sounds like the answer to the question.
Yeah, that sounds like he answered his own question.
Nail the values and keep the brushwork loose. And I guess you could add to that, nail the color at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Can tell Christian's taking this seriously. Love it. Kristen, we need to make sure to like send the link to your his family and your family, so you can see what an awesome job he's doing. Funny because right now, because I like was working on everything else and trying to like play catch up. Probably not the best idea. Started like making bad choices, but it's also a good practice to like try to do some stuff quickly if you can. Okay. Okay. We're going to adjust my camera so that I don't block painting while I'm working on it. You know, the wonderful thing about painting from life is that it's so candid. You know, we're just here to have fun, have people join us who want to watch and hopefully be entertained with what we're doing. So.
Tyler Hughes asks, what kind of lighting do you guys use for your models?
So there's cinema lighting that you can get. B&H is where we got ours. It's made by Aperture. And yeah, they're just, they're called 120D, made by Aperture. And yeah, they're great lights. You know, in the world of cinematics, the lights are pretty cheap. Doesn't mean they are cheap. They're still relatively expensive, but it's still a pretty good bang for your buck, for sure. So on the next break, we'll readjust any of the camera angles that we feel necessary to help make sure this is a good experience for everybody.
Zed Anwar asks, is art school worth it, or is it better to learn by yourself these days with all the resources available online?
Alex, you want to?
I think that both ways are like to learn by yourself is completely possible, but you just have to know what kind of person you are and if you are able to hold yourself accountable. Because like it's not going to be fast. Like you're still going to have to take those like years you would at an art school to learn all the stuff. And sometimes it's just hard to keep yourself accountable to that when no one's there telling you what to do or whatever. But if you are a person that can hold yourself accountable, I think it's definitely a great option. That's what I did. Just took workshops here and there, just one a year or whatever I could do.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is discipline, you know, so I think that's why saying that it just depends on the kind of person you are, because I know for me, I did go to art school. I actually went to university, and then I did an undergrad somewhere as well. I mean, I did an undergrad at University of Mississippi and got a fine art degree there. But then I didn't feel like I learned much, so I went to an atelier in New York, Grand Central Atelier. I believe that I learned a lot there because it's not that there's a whole lot of teaching. There is a great deal of good teaching there, but it's more that it forces you to be disciplined to log in the hours.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important thing, you know.
Got 2 seconds, 1.
Okay.
And we're done.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to check the camera angles and make sure everything looks okay, and we will continue moving forward.
You can take a break.
All right, we ready? Sure my mic is on. All right, we're back. All right, you need to turn your head up a bit, Bub. Nope, like just up towards the light. Not that much. All right, now turn it this way a little bit. Is that too much? That's too much, right?
Well, it's probably a little bit more to the left. Or your left. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the chin up a little bit, and then it needs a little more to.
I can see where my halfway point is.
Yeah, find your halfway point.
So it's
I feel like you might be turned just a touch more to his left.
yeah.
To your left, Christian.
Turn to my left.
Yes. Yep. And then lift your chin up, your head up a little more. Is that even close? I should have gotten the axis and done all that. I didn't
Yeah,
even think to do that.
that seems right.
Okay, cool.
We have a question from Amos. Alex, for your figurative works, how much attention and time do you put into picking the model's clothing? Is it fair to assume you look for materials with specific textures, like linen?
I wouldn't say I pay too much attention to get a specific texture, but I just don't want certain textures. Like, I definitely don't want anything that's shiny or mostly anything that's kind of shiny or like furry shiny. What am I thinking of? Like velvety, because that just throws the values and form off and just kind of takes away. I like something that's kind of more solid and matte. And I'll make sure the clothes don't have like patterns on them, because like that's just gonna be difficult to paint and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely love like picking out outfits for paintings.
We need to start building up a wardrobe here. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I just like, well, most of the clothes I use are Divya's clothes, and
Not most of the clothes you wear, most of the clothes you use, right?
most of the clothes I wear, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're mostly Divya's, but I just recently bought like my first time skirt shopping online for myself. So.
Anna kindly writes, I know you are concentrating, but when you have a moment, can you talk about the business of art? Specifically, how much time do you actually paint versus the business side of things?
Well, for me and Lewis, I feel like that's a good bit different, the answers. Yeah.
Well, the business side of things, it's just like anything. It's a different skill set, and it can be all-consuming. And as you grow as an artist, you will find that it becomes even more difficult to to manage your time of the business side of things and manage your actual time that you're painting. And so, not gonna lie, it is quite tough. But I would say there are times in my life where it ends up being 50-50, and then there's times where it might be 60-40, where like business part's like 60. But then there'll be times where I like block out big swaths of time that will, where I'll really focus on painting, and it'll be like, 80-20, where I'm like really heavily hitting painting. But I'm a walking distraction, and I run around like a crazy person often. And so there's so many things to be done, especially if you're like doing filming stuff as well. And, I'm preparing for a lecture here in town at an arts council thing. And then I have Michael Klein's my partner, so we have meetings and talk about what we're going to do to help provide more content for all of our viewers, and so the next thing painting's out the window. And so it is most certainly something you have to protect. And the way my mind is hardwired, though, is that painting is fun. And I'm one of those disciplined people that likes to get the hard thing out of the way so that you feel like you can do the fun thing and not feel guilty about it. And sometimes the hard thing is like an abyss, and it just doesn't have an end. And so you have to be careful about doing that, because then you fall into it. And that's something I still struggle with. But right now, deadlines are what help me stay to painting. So I have goals and I have deadlines that I'm trying to hit. And that's what makes it a little bit easier. Hopefully that helped answer at least partially.
Yeah. And then being an artist can be a lot of things, because so many people are teaching like a lot of the time, and or like in Lewis's case, like doing a lot of stuff with East Oaks, and like So it depends what it is, but so I kind of limit mine to just doing gallery work. I could be doing more teaching and all that stuff, but for the most part, it's gallery work, which means I'm painting like all the time and not really anything else. And sometimes you just want to break from painting. Like, I don't want to see a painting for
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah, you can easily get burned out too, for sure.
Yeah. And especially now because everything's locked down, so I did have some workshops, but they're not even, but that would still be painting, so. Other than that, I mean, yeah, there's like emails from collectors or the gallery you're working with and stuff like that, but it doesn't take up much of my time. But I like limit the people I'm working with to just like 2, so
Yeah.
yeah.
This next question is for Alex specifically. Where are these sketches available for purchase? The listener says, I didn't see any of these live on the Collins Gallery or East Oak's website. Do you think you might ever have some available for purchase?
Oh yeah, the sketches from the live streams. Some of them I've given away or painted over, but if you're interested in a specific one, just send me an email letting me know. I'm just kind of collecting them at the moment. So yeah.
Another viewer asks for both of you, what is the best material for underdrawing? I use Vine charcoal, but I want something more precise. And can I paint over it without spraying fixative?
I use normal, I don't know what normal means, but like a charcoal pencil, and I just try and be really light with it. And you can sharpen it so it becomes pretty precise, but the tough part is it is a little hard to erase. But that's what I do, and it works all right. I mean, sometimes you go a little too hard and it like takes a couple layers to cover it completely and stuff like that, but it's definitely more precise. I've tried the like Vine charcoal because I just like the way that like looks and feels better, but yeah, if you don't spray it, then it just kind of, before you even get to it, it kind of wipes off. And I've tried spraying it and it just makes the board itself feel different, so yeah, I just use a normal charcoal pencil. Unless I'm feeling really confident, then I'll just use paint.
We have a question from Elif. They asked, this may be a basic question for you, but I would really appreciate if you could answer it. What advice would you give to a self-started beginner to oil painting?
Well, first I would say just try and do a painting. Just completely just go for it and try and mess with the paint, whatever you think painting is, just kind of go for it, and then start like looking into videos and instruction and stuff, because sometimes if you look too much at videos and instruction before you've even let your hands play with the thing, it's just really daunting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is you just can't be scared of the medium. You just want to play and just experiment and try things. Because the thing that I see the most in people is that once they feel like they've watched those videos or found a way that somebody says is a way to do it, it creates a bit of fear that you can't break out of that. There's most certainly something to be said about learning how to draw and learning how to work that part of painting, but you know, I find a lot more people just like fearful to even try anything because they're going to do something that's wrong, you know, and I feel like, you know, that doesn't have to be the case. So hopefully that was helpful. I feel like I'm trying to play catch up, get this block in going.
I don't know who you're trying to play catch up to. You're already exactly where I am. Probably more accurate.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Michael Gallo asks, what is the most convenient way to practice oil painting?
Ooh, I think we got to define what convenience is for you. I think that means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know, a limited palette. It's convenient because you don't have to put out a lot of paint. I don't exactly know.
Convenient way to paint. I'm kind of drawing a blank just because I'm not sure what I would consider convenient. A large amount of painting is just such an inconvenience. You know, I feel like you know, you got to set out your paints every day. You got to, you know, kind of wash your brushes when you're done. You got to, you know, where there's a convenience thing there is that I actually don't wash my brushes, but I put them in oil every day after I'm done painting because it's more convenient. So that's something. I don't know if that helps, but you know, that most certainly helps me because at the end of the day, your brain is exhausted from trying, and the last thing you want to do is like feel like you have to wash your brushes. Yeah, prepping canvases. That I don't prep canvases because of the same reason. It is just, oh man, stretching canvases is miserable to me. So what I do instead is I cut panel. That's easier and more convenient. So that's another thing. So hopefully that was helpful as well. Most convenient way. It's kind of a good question though, you know. Kind of makes you go, should I second guess my own practices of what I'm doing?
Yeah, I just wonder if we're completely taking it the wrong way. Most convenient way is not care if your painting looks good or not and just have fun. That's convenient.
Can you go a little bit further into depth as to how you prep your panels and what that looks like for you?
Yeah, so I use aluminum composite material. You can go to any sign shop. And what I mean by sign shop is every town has like a sign supply store that somebody in town supplies everybody with like the materials in order to create or make signs. And you just Google it, like sign supply store, and then call them and say, do you have any aluminum composite material? A brand name that people commonly hear is called Dye Bond. And it's super easy to score and cut with a razor blade, like a box cutter, and you just use a straight edge. And And then once you've scored it and used the straight edge, you can then basically put it to the edge of a table and then pop it. And it works really well. The great thing about it is the longevity of your painting being on a solid, what they call a solid substrate, which is the thing that you're actually using. It's really good for paint because paint kind of breathes with the humidity. And so what this does is that it's not very susceptible to humidity, even though the paint is. And so it seals the backside of the paint from being susceptible to humidity, and so it doesn't expand and contract as much. And paint cures like concrete or plaster of Paris, and then over time it gets brittle. And if your canvas is like expanding and contracting with the humidity every day, then it allows for the paint to move around and then crack as it gets brittle when it gets older. So this prevents that, and it's one of the cheapest things you can buy. I then just put you can put gesso on it. I put lead alkyd ground made by Rublev, and it is a really great product. You can look it up on Natural Pigment's website, and yeah, I recommend it. So hopefully that was helpful. We also have a YouTube video that Michael explains prepping dye bond. Just go to our East Oak Studio YouTube channel, and on there we explained it a little bit more.
We've got 1 minute left on the clock.
All right, 1 minute left. I'm going to make a few radical moves here.
Should have put that black in first. Now I realize I made the shirt too bright. So I don't know if you can see on the camera, but there's this black kind of velvet sheet to the left of his head. And I'm putting it in to kind of just help me key my values. Because I know I can just almost put pure black there and compare everything else to it. And I do that because I know how to get pure black accurate. Just use black, and I mix warm into it just because I think it looks better than cold black. And then his shirt is like more of a high chroma color, so that's going to help me also key the skin tones as well. So I'm doing what I think I can get right first.
Yep. That's a good lesson that I think Alex does a good job sharing, is that find one thing that's right first and use that to help you find the next thing, kind of like a crossword puzzle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, we're going to take another break, and we will be back. Turn this off. Okay. So for anyone, for whoever said that the sound is muffled, let us know if it sounds muffled again. We sometimes, if our mic is on mute or something like that, the camera mics will pick up the surround sound, and that will make it sound muffled. It just means that we need to turn our mics on off mute, just like that. So I had mine on mute right then. So it should be better now. Okay. Back at it. Did you position him?
No.
Okay. You need to lift your chin a little bit. No. Yeah, rotate your face a little towards me. Yeah, maybe a little less. Go back.
I think it's way more towards me.
Go for it. Keep going.
Yeah, at least that much.
Is it facing up towards the light a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so.
Does that look good?
That looks all right to me.
Could you tilt your head ever so slightly to your left? Just a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was, this is on session 3, right? We chose a hard angle for Christian to hold because there's like all sorts of like tilts and downward movements of his face, and sometimes it's hard to hold because your neck is like holding it the whole time. So thank you, Christian, for stepping up to the plate for the challenge.
We have a couple questions that came in over break. So I'll start with, what do you recommend for a limited palette?
You can take that? Okay.
No.
Well, I would say that like one of the more affordable palettes you can get is something that would be considered like the modern day Zorn palette. And basically, for some reason I'm having a hard time getting this bridge of his nose. Basically it is like a yellow ochre or a raw sienna type color. A cad red, the original form was called vermilion. You can get that also from Rublev or Natural Pigments if you wish. It's a great color. That's what I usually use. But cad red works just as fine. It's just a little bit more of a powerful color. The tinting strength of it is so high that like it's hard to sometimes control. Then it's cad red or vermilion, yellow ochre, black, ivory black, or bone black, and then white. And that's it. It's like the whole palette. So the great thing about those kinds of palettes is that they limit your options, but they almost like automatically set in a color harmony for you so that you don't have to even think about color harmony. You just, because one color is more powerful than the other color. So it kind of like helps you in one sense, like make sure that you have you don't have to like think about too hard like how powerful your green should be, because your green can only get so strong, and how powerful your blue could be because your blue is literally black mixed with white. So it sounds like it really is like limiting and you won't have as much fun, but I promise you'll make more beautiful paintings because you won't have every option available to you, because some people just get all over the place in their paintings because they're not paying attention to the fact that there's a harmony. There's like, just like you have chords in music, you have harmony that you have to do with color, you know, and you can play musical notes in music that don't go together and don't sound pretty. But the same thing, you can make notes in color that harmonize together and make beautiful like color chords. And so that's why I find that it's important to think about.
Oscar asks, is it advisable to substitute flaxseed oil for walnut oil mixed with gam salt as medium?
I have no idea.
Well, I don't use walnut oil that much. I love walnut oil. I think it's a great oil to use, but it doesn't dry quickly, and I need my paintings to dry faster because I paint in layers. So, so there's that. But I've never used flaxseed oil, so I don't know if I can speak into that.
Yeah, same.
But I would, I want you to find that out for us and send it in, and we'll make sure to like announce to everybody that of what your findings are, because it's an interesting question. All right, this is one of those things where I could start fiddling a lot for a very, very long time on different aspects of his angle, but since this is more of an alla prima sketch, I better move on, otherwise I can just get caught in a time suck with the drawing. That's one thing that you do start learning in when you're painting, is that you have to learn when it's good to shift gears and when it's like time to move on to like something else and something new. Because there's a law out there that's called, I think it's called, let's see, I think it's called the law of Parkinson's law, I think is what it's called. And it's basically that the amount of time that you have available to you will expand, your work will expand to the amount of time that you have available to you. So you always have to be careful of that. If you're spending too long kind of piddling on something, it's basically because you're avoiding like shifting gears and moving on to the next thing, you know. So I'm going to try to avoid that.
You just inspired me to stop painting the background,
Look at that.
because I was definitely piddling.
Yeah.
Maya Valle says, brother-in-law looking good in oil paint. Hello from Florida.
Hey. That's awesome. Look at that. He's like unfazed. I've got my stone statue look. There's a smile. He's like, I don't care what my eyes say. Maya, we're looking forward to you coming back again, playing some more spotting games like Spot It. All right. I keep saying stop piddling. I keep doing it. What's up with you, Alex? Not even taking my own advice. All right, I'm going to move forward.
What's wrong with Louis?
Yeah. So many things.
The 8-book drama series. No. Just kidding.
This great color on the shirt.
So we have a question that asks, what brush cleaning routine do you recommend? Do you think that using turpentine, then safflower oil, then turpentine is advisable?
I feel like Rosemary or Simi from Rosemary or something said something like brushes are literally made out of hair, so would you wash your hair in turpentine? So I never wash my brushes in turpentine. If anything, I'll wipe them out in oil, like in my medium, in between trying to kind of clean them off to get a new color. And then I think so far, like everyone here has been, at the end of the day, instead of cleaning them all day, we have kind of like a container of oil and just placing our brushes in oil instead of, beating them up every day, cleaning them.
Yep.
And that can last, a long time. I can't remember the last time I washed them.
Yeah. I don't, like you said, I rarely wash my brushes now. I find that it's just so easy to and healthy for your brushes to just set them in oil. I use walnut oil for setting my brushes, but you can use, you could use just like, household, like, canola oil or something else. The only problem with using like vegetable oil or anything is that they do not oxidize or cure. And so they don't dry. And as long as you know that, you've got to wash them out really good before you start painting with them. Because if you paint with them like that, then your paint will never dry. And I don't advise that. So.
Yeah, I've been using mineral oil, which doesn't dry. I just wipe them out with my paper towel really well before I start painting, and it's been working real good. Because I did use just linseed oil, and then I went to Australia and I came back, and the linseed oil was just like jelly, and my brushes were ruined that I left there.
Yeah.
But the mineral oil I've had there for a long time and nothing's happened. And I got the recommendation from Jeff Hine to use mineral oil, so.
I meant to like come up a few days ago and be like, what is that oil that you've been using?
I'm pretty sure it's what they use in enemas.
Oh.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at where to find it in the store.
So if you're wondering
get enemas.
if your brushes are going to have good flow, they will. Oh, enema jokes.
Good old-fashioned enema joke.
Can you guys recommend a good reference for art terms and techniques, especially all those Italian phrases? For example, Lewis, the layering you do is called ... question mark.
The layering?
Layering.
Oh, the layering.
Layering.
So she's wanting just terms? Is that what she said?
Like art terms and techniques.
Like if there's a good like website or something.
Well, I actually don't know any great fancy term for layering. I do say I paint in layers or glazing and scumbling and all that kind of stuff. But I think like some of the ones that people hear a lot is like grisaille or impasto. And like grisaille basically means that you're painting your subject in like a single tone or like monochromatically. So it's like black and white or like a brown and white. And then there is, like what was the other one I said? Impasto, which is basically when you lay on like a really large piece of paint, like a blob of paint that helps kind of create texture and a sculptural nature to your painting. And that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and some people are like, what? What is that? But there's like a lot of them. So it's kind of like, I have to like really think for a second, because I've been in this world now so long that I forget what terminology and jargon is something that people don't know.
Yeah, I have to say I find when I hear other people talking about paintings that I use the wrong terms all the time for different things. Like I heard you explaining what scumbling means, and I'm like, nope.
That's not what I heard.
That's not what I like when I talk about it. And then like blocking into me is like what I'm doing now with paint.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah.
a lot of you guys are talking about the like drawing process, like the outline.
No, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's so true.
yeah, if you find one good reference, so we could all get it right.
I will say that there's a lot of leeway, just like there is in any word and language, where culturally what some people say and some people mean it will be different in some places. And like scumbling, I wondered what that was too. And then like I talk about it the way that Josh LaRock had taught me, which might not even be right, but that's how he explained it, and I've heard it also explained like 3 different other ways. So that's a really good point. Would you like to explain scumbling and how you understand it?
If you go back and basically look at how I just scrubbed in the paint on my background and like the shirt, that is basically what I mean by scumbling. Is I kind of have a good amount of paint and I'm like kind of just really scrubbing it in there. And that's really it. And I heard you explain something about it's like putting a light on top of a dark, and that is where I'm like,
You're like, nope, not in my head.
Pretty much every time I scumble is the exact opposite. It's a darker tone on top of a lighter one.
This brings a great point. So like how I was explained about it by Josh LaRock, if I remember correctly. And sometimes people teach you something and then you remember it a different way than maybe they even taught you. But how I recall is that glazing is like doing a dark over a light, and scumbling is kind of like pushing a light over a dark. So me pushing this light over this dark, at least in what I understood him to say, is that would be a form of scumbling. It's a format of tinting in one way or another, but is in the opposite direction of glazing, in the sense that if you put a dark over a light, it tends to get warm. And if you put a light over a dark, it tends to make the light cool down. And so there's like 2 different terms for it.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the consistency of the paint?
I think it can to some degree, because I don't know if it's necessarily that it's thinness, it could be, I guess, but I'm not necessarily positive if that's what it was intended to be when he was explaining it.
Because that, like, to me, that glazing has a lot to do with, or how I use it has a lot to do with the consistency of the paint. It being more of like a watercolor type thing.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah.
Hey, great question. It sparked a lot of good conversation.
On that note, they had commented on the term alla prima.
Ooh,
so
alla prima.
What can you talk about as far as alla prima, and what kind of brushes do you recommend for a quick alla prima session?
Well, alla prima is basically means painting in the wet. Like the actual means in the wet, correct? The actual word, alla prima. I believe it means in the wet, but that's a great term. But and you can also talk about plein air, which basically means open air. I think where basically means you're painting outside. So some of these terms are not are also French. So, but that's just another can of worms, and we can go back to terminology later. As far as brushes are concerned, when you're painting alla prima, gosh, I tend to start with a more of a bristle brush at the beginning, because I need to lay down a little bit more paint, because if I lay too thin a paint down at the beginning, I find that it's hard for me to apply more paint without lifting up the old stuff. So I paint with like more of a bristly brush or a harder brush in the beginning, and then I turn down into a softer brush in the end to like lay down, with a more of a light touch. So it's like you almost have to shift gears with your brush as well while you're going through the whole thing. My problem is I tend to err towards a soft brush because I paint thin, and I usually paint quite delicate. And so sometimes it's hard for me to pick up the bristle brush when I should be.
Yeah, I would say just for me, working on panel softer, I just have to be using a softer brush when I'm alla prima painting, because it actually lays the paint down. Every other kind of harder brush just kind of takes the paint off as I put it down.
Yeah.
So anything that allows you to kind of put paint there and, not lift up your paint.
On brushes, what brush shapes do you guys prefer and why? Thanks a lot.
Well, I would say what I've gotten into lately is these filbert brushes. I never thought I would like them, but I've found, I tried them because I heard Sean Cheatham talking about them one time. And he was just saying what control he had, and because you can create a great edge, you can create a flat stroke, or you can drag things, or you can apply really well, so it has like a lot of versatility. So I started using it and actually really have enjoyed it. Before that, I use a ton of rounds, and I use a few flats as well. And depending on what I'm doing, I will choose the brush, a particular brush for the job. So if I'm applying on, like trying to create an interesting edge or angle, I usually use my filbert. If I'm trying to like softly turn a form with just a thin amount of paint, I'll sometimes use a flat. And if I'm trying to create an interesting edge that is just about the edge, I'll use a flat for that as well. And then my rounds I tend to like turn form with. So it's like those are kind of my workhorses for trying to make the thing feel sculptural. What about you, Alexa? Go.
I pretty much, at the moment, just use flats and rounds. And usually flats, a soft flat to kind of lay in my first kind of sloppy pass, and it's because the flats allow me to kind of leave the paint, kind of put it there and leave it there. And then the rounds are for more of like turning the form and smaller details once that's dry.
Mm.
And I have a brush set with Rosemary and Company that you'll see is a bunch of rounds and a couple flats. Yeah.
Still on the topic of alla prima, do you guys recommend avoiding ivory black when painting alla prima?
I don't. I actually have ivory black on on alla prima, I'm not sure, but I always have ivory black on my palette because it's just a great low chromatic blue. So that's the way I think about it. I think about the fact that it's a low chromatic blue. And, hopefully that helps people like not shy away from it, because it is a great color if you know how to use it as a tool. But if you use it as a black, then you can key the range of your color harmony in a painting really poorly. So it's just one of those things where you just have to watch out, and it's just a mind hack to figure out what way you want to explain how you want to explain it. So
Yeah, I feel like some people just use it as value, just to make something
Yeah.
darker.
yeah, just to like get idea of darkness. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back here in about 5 minutes. Thank y'all. All right, everybody.
I haven't turned it off.
Yep, microphone's on. Can everybody hear me out there? Yay. Okay. It's always nice to give your model a chance to take a break. How's that look, Alex?
No, that looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it looks pretty good.
Tony Hamill says, can you please talk about edges and how you would apply them to these particular paintings in progress?
That's a good question. It's funny because it depends on the situation. I tend to address like edges last, but I don't know if that's the best practice, honestly. But I feel like Alex is incredibly good with edges, so I'm gonna let him tell y'all his secrets.
Well, on this current painting, I'm like not thinking about edges at all at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it kind of is a thing, like once I get it laid in, then once I start kind of defining like the forms, that's when I'm kind of being more careful about edges.
Just lift your chin just a little bit. Yep.
Um,
You okay with that?
oh, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, a big thing with edges, which doesn't seem like a big thing, is just to make sure your brush doesn't have like a bunch of splayed hairs, or that you load it up with paint enough that it kind of like groups those splayed hairs, because like a lot of, you know, people have problem with edges. When I look, it's a lot of the time fuzzy edges, and usually it's because the brush is kind of beat up or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and there are times if you're trying to like create really soft edges that you can use something splayed if you want to like create a really interesting soft edge. But you know, because I see a lot of people that are big alla prima painters do stuff like that, and I've seen Michael use his splayed brushes and times that it's really interesting, but really hard to control, you know. And there's just a lot of ways to approach it. I mean, if you look at somebody like Anthony Wachulis, who, you know, his work is just like incredibly detailed, and edges is everything to him, and he's using this like tiny brush to get all those edges. And he, and then you have other people like, you know, like the Lip Kings and people of the world that, you know, use these like soft mongoose brushes and stuff that might be splayed. Or I guess Daniel Keyes is a really good example, who just uses a very splayed brush to get interesting edges, and usually they're a little bit more of a blown out, styled edge, but still great for what they're using it for.
Yeah, and by splayed, I also mean like when your brush is like old and it's splaying out the edges,
Yeah.
but yeah, having like those flats like Daniel Keyes uses that, yeah, kind of have that
Have a
nice
fray.
wisp.
Yeah.
Wisp to them.
Yeah, so I saw him like talking to one of his videos. He's like, I like the beat up brushes. I like the ones that are all frayed out, and you know, because he uses a lot of flats in his type of painting. So
How do you deal with the failure of a painting and start over? if you experienced that at all.
Oh man, if you haven't experienced failure in painting, then you're not honest with yourself. Well, I'll tell you what my pottery teacher told me one time, and I'll never forget it. He creates an assignment, and I'm sure it's based off of a past story that was told to him. So I don't think it's anything that's a new story, but it was the first time I had heard it was from him. And he creates a project where you have two different teams, and one team can make a perfect one singular bowl for their final project. And then the other team has to create 100 bowls for the project, and they don't have to be perfect at all. And the people who do the 100 bowls end up making a more perfect bowl by the end than the people who tried to make just one perfect bowl. And what I love about that story is that failure is baked into success. And I was telling one of the people here, I think it was Kristen, that like when we fail at painting, we fail forward. And so what we're really trying to do, if you have that mentality, then you take the fear away from failure. And you have to be okay with it, because typically, you know, they say like you learn 10 times more when a rocket fails and when you're like trying to launch and a rocket fails than you do when a rocket is successful, because you find out what's wrong and then the engineers can work around it for the future. And that was weird. No, I think it's my brother. He came over. So anyway, I think that as long as you have that mentality when you're failing, and that it's okay to fail, it's actually really healthy. Thank you.
You're like working out in the garage or something?
So the garage is right above us, and since COVID has hit, that's where we work out. I have a feeling that somebody in the house is up there getting the weights out.
For your larger work, especially gallery work, if you're painting from life, do you take reference photos as well?
It depends what I'm doing. So like, like my self-portraits that I've done from life, that were for galleries. I just did completely from life, no reference work, and I've done some like interiors and stuff. And like I've done an interior with a figure in it, and so I painted the interior from life and then kind of got photo reference for the figure and set up a mannequin with the clothes just to like get the color right. So I mean, it's good practice to get a photo just for like when you can't work from life to finish it up or something like that. So yeah, it depends like project to project.
Do you have any specific approach on how to paint this type of alla prima portraits? Example, first the lights and shadows, find the local colour, and so on.
Thanks.
Yeah, you know, the good thing about what we're doing here is, you know, you should always find some way to experiment on something, you know. So like every time I'm doing one of these, there is a few things that I'm trying differently, just to see if I can discover something new. But what I would say is I typically find it easier to work on a piece when I go from the dark to the light and then back again. So I try to find the shadows first, and then I like go in and try to find, you know, I do really like Alex's approaches, finding something that that you can like use, that you feel like you can paint and key the painting. So like, for example, the orange, you know, I was going to go, okay, if I find the orange, I can, in the green, I can key the painting better, especially with like the facial colors. And so that's one of the things I think about as well. So that's a good question.
Do either of you find that when you're doing alla prima portraits, you're using more paint compared to when you're just simply blocking in a painting that you know you're going to have layers on?
Yeah, I use more paint because since I paint in layers when I'm normally painting, I find that it's, you know, if I paint thinly on this, then the back of the canvas is going to show through, or the back of the panel is going to show through more. And so it ends up being more, it ends up being kind of a darker painting. So I have to paint thicker just to combat that. That's a good question, though, because, I mean, that's certainly something to consider.
Yeah, I would say the same. It's a little bit, probably a little bit thicker than when I start, although if I'm being like conscious of it, sometimes I'll try and start just as thick as an alla prima and build up on that. So, but knowing that you are going to have multiple layers definitely just subconsciously allows you to not go as thick.
Gail asks, have you all painted each other? Thinking of Michael's painting, the critique, it's of Alex and Divya. Yes?
Yes, we have all painted each other. I think the only person I have not painted is Alex. Well, I haven't painted Michael either, but I don't know if y'all have noticed, there's not too many paintings of Michael from other artists. There's a rare occasion he let Josh LaRock paint him. So, but no, I think Alex is, because I know Alex and Divya have painted me. You've painted me, right, Divya?
No.
Oh, that was, Carmen was painting that day, right? So, because I've modeled for Painting from Life. So if anyone wants to paint me, y'all can. Y'all can just go to our Painting from Life. But yeah, I think it's great because we all are models for each other in ways, you know? Makes it a lot of fun.
What's your opinion on focusing on two disciplines? I'm practicing the violin and art and want to be proficient at both. Or would you think it's better to just focus on one?
There is a psychological term for cross-referencing or cross-learning. But they have to be in similar fields in a way, and you actually can learn much faster. So for example, if you are learning the history of like France, it's also good to learn the history of Italy in exactly at the same time period because they went through the same thing and it reinforces each other in order to like learn. So if you're learning one language, that's, you know, sometimes it's good to like learn another to like reinforce. So music and art are in a lot of ways creatively probably pretty close. I would say that it's probably a good practice to learn how to bring both of those together. I mean, I definitely learned a musical instrument growing up at the same time I was learning to draw. And I most certainly think that it probably helped.
What's your advice on studying on your own without a mentor? Any curriculum ideas?
Well, I always start people off on bark drawings just to learn proportion. And if you don't have a teacher to help, what I would tell you to do is scan them in like if you have a scanner at your house, and then superimpose them with the bar drawing that you did and see where you got it wrong. Because I think proportion and getting proportion right is one of the things that most people struggle with the most at the beginning. Everything else, there's all sorts of things. Value and learning value. I would say proportion in drawing and learning how to control value are the two most powerful things you can learn in art to help you have a skill set for realism. So if you're an abstract painter, then maybe color theory would be better. But if you're trying to be a realist painter, those I would think are some of the most important.
I don't know, I'd say like just that's how I learned without a teacher, and like one of just the best benefits of it is that everything that I tried to learn like through doing a painting, doing my own painting, like coming up with the idea, not, I don't know, just basically trying to make paintings. And so like now I feel like coming up with an idea is a lot easier, whereas in some people that come out of an atelier or something, they kind of just don't know what to do because everything's been set up for them, or they've been like copying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just one thing I could say that's really awesome about it.
That's good.
So like I'd sometimes just, go about whatever I'm about to paint and just go about the drawing like almost in a Barg-like fashion, and just not let myself start painting until I think the drawing is right, and then, that kind of thing.
Is painting for either of you an all-consuming vocation? Do you have time for friends, family, relaxation?
Good question. My wife is my world. If there's anything that I want to devote my time and heart to, it'd be her, and she comes before painting. But we do have time for friends, but the great thing is to try to create overlap. And one of our goals and visions and dreams of what East Oaks is that we create a community of artists that can sort of overlap lives and enjoy being around each other as well, not just as a vocation, but also just people that we enjoy being around. So we paint together, and we actually live life together in a way. And it actually has allowed for more time and space, even though we heavily focus on our painting. But I do know artists that take it so seriously that like a lot of different areas of their life goes out of balance. And I just made a decision earlier on that I didn't want that to be the case for my family. That at the end of the day, it was important for me to always be present with my wife and spend time with her, and not let this be all-consuming, because family's always been a value to me. So, and that's not everyone's case, but that's my case for sure.
Yeah, I would say all-consuming is definitely like, if it's all-consuming, you don't have time for anything else. That doesn't seem too great. But I feel like there's waves of it being like a lot, consuming a lot, and then then goes in and out of waves where it's not consuming as much. And like when I was learning how to paint, I was living at home, like where all my friends lived. So I mean, I was definitely still hanging out with friends, but there was tons of times where it's like, hey man, you just want to go hang out? And I'm like, we're not gonna achieve anything, so I'm just gonna stay home and paint. And but now, like, I live where none of my old friends live, and my wife is also a painter, so we just always are spending time together. So that helps it like balance itself out, but then also just, doing other things.
Let me get this last little bit. Did I hear the alarm go off? This last little second. Hold on just a second. I'm going to try to get the rest of this like forehead in. All right. I'll finish her out when you get back on the stage. All right, everybody, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back in a bit. All right, peoples. So, what time is it already? How many more sessions do you think we have?
2.5 or something. Is it 8? I think.
It's 8? Oh, okay, so we got an hour. I think I could screw this up in an hour.
Do you think his chin is down a little bit more?
Yeah, that's fine.
And it'll turn a little bit more towards me? Yeah.
That's great. Yep. Put in the rest of these shadows before I keep on moving. I tend to like forget to do that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, I need to like darken that down if I want everything to make sense.
So we have a question. Who are your favorite living and dead artists?
One of my favorite living artists is Alex Venezia.
Who's that?
AV. It's funny because like you get asked that question a decent amount, you feel like I've like made sure to like have it memorized exactly all the ones, but like due to things like Instagram and stuff, I feel like you just have like, hundreds of people you're like, whoa, I really love them,
Yeah.
But everyone from like Antonio Lopez to I would say probably, I've always loved some of the academic people or people that are at least teaching in academic environments like Jordan Sokol and Colleen Berry and Amaya Grupide. All those people are amazing, and I love their work. But old school or dead artists that I love is I love Jules Breton. He's a French painter, did a lot of like peasant women in the fields working. And Lepage is another one that I love. And I'm a portrait painter, so I most certainly love people like Zorn and Sargent, and Alma Tadema and William Bouguereau. So, but Repin is like, that's probably one of my favorite portrait painters. Love, love, love his work. So there's just, he's so good at like the painterly mark, but it's very interesting and unique. And I have a real big heart for Russian painters. I really like a lot of the Russians. Kramskoy is another one that I love. So, but I always feel like caught off guard, like, oh, I should know. I should like be able to spout off my top 10 list. And I keep forgetting.
Well, someone who I mention a lot, that's one of my favorite living painters, is Odd Nerdrum, who me and Divya spent time with in Norway. If there's anyone alive who's like that can paint like an old master, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely probably my top living painter. There's so many people that are just good, that are just so good technically, that are living, that basically like everyone that Lewis just mentioned. But yeah, dead painters. I'm trying to think. I always just kind of think of who I've been looking at recently, which would be like also Lepage, Hammershoy.
Mm.
Who else have I been looking at? Just like Emile Friant, Solomon J. Solomon. I was looking at some Bouguereaus today, just trying to get like reference for the painting I'm working on, because his just color balance, like his ability to balance colors just in flesh tone is just so good. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Do you guys think that taking the atelier path is a faster way to proficiency rather than, let's say, workshops and self-learning?
I'll give you the attorney answer that I give a lot, which is it depends. It just depends on your personality and if you're disciplined or not. I most certainly believe that you can learn a whole lot very quickly in an atelier if you get to the right one. That you have like teachers that are really intentional about teaching you and have a willingness to like really share deeply. It's just there's a discipline there that allows for you to like focus and like shut out other areas of your life that would tend to like try to consume your world with like, you know, just work and trying to live and, you know, all that kind of stuff kind of like sometimes prevents people from getting better. But I most certainly believe that you can do it on your own. Alex is living proof of that, you know, because Alex basically did just that. But fastest route is just how fast can you, hours logged, and at least having people that have sharp eyes, trained eyes that are around you. You know, I recommend painting with people in your studio if you can make that happen. So hopefully that was helpful.
Karina says, during this pandemic, all my commissions have decreased and it's hard to be motivated. What I do see is all your paintings and your sketches in order to be inspired. Thanks for that.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Awesome.
You know, I think that it's really good to try to find silver lining things with it. If like the commissions aren't going, then you, like what I would always tell myself is, well, this is time for a passion project. The thing that I've been wanting to do for a while that I've been telling myself I can't because I've got all this commission work to do. I say try to go for that, you know. See if you can pull out one of the old passion projects that you've been putting aside and see if you can find, you know, some inspiration in there and even learning. I know that other artists, they take years off, like Jeff Hine, he took a whole year off to like reinvent himself and just to try things without feeling like he has to worry about what a client would think or something. And so, you know, I think that's awesome. I think it's a really amazing approach. And this could be a great opportunity to do just that. That's a good question, or a good thought. Thank you for, we're so happy that we're able to motivate you, inspire you, hopefully to get back to the easel and try all of that.
Gail asks, are you art collectors? Do you ever swap with other artists?
I would think that most artists are art lovers and art appreciators. And if they can afford to collect, then they probably do. I would swap with most, you know, there's a lot of artists that I would love to swap with. So all you artists out there. But yeah, I've most certainly bartered with a couple of people, paintings, and given them mine on as well. So I think it's a great practice. It's good to have just a fun house full of eclectic work, you know?
Yeah, I just recently have it's like the way I've accumulated some paintings are all different. Like I traded one with Donald Journey, and then Nicholas Uribe, I believe that's how you say his last name, was painting Divya for a workshop in town, and I was just like, hey man, that looks really awesome. He's like, here, just have it. So that, and then Colleen Berry was selling some paintings, you know, on Instagram for like bidding, and I tried to like bid on that one, but I got outbid, and then she's like, just sent me some pictures like, hey, I'm sorry if you think that these other ones suck, but this is what I have available. I'm like, no, they do not suck.
Yeah.
But since
They
you
are
think
amazing.
so, they were affordable. So I have a Colleen Berry, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
So yeah, I love collecting art, and I hope to, just do it more. But most of the stuff I like is too expensive.
Mm. Alex has given me one of my pieces, and he's given me one of his pieces. That it was a study, and I very much appreciated the painting from life that we had done a while back. The one he did of me and the one he did of my wife, he gifted to her. And so we are all excited that we have an Alex Venezia in our room. We bartered with Donald Journey at the same time, which was a lot of fun, and just a fantastic painter. And what he can make up out of his own head is just amazing to me. You know, it's just really, really remarkable. So we have one of his, and honestly, I don't know if we have too many more past that point. But I definitely intend to like do a few more barters here and there in the future.
Gail notes, Alex's paint piles on his palette are huge compared to earlier life sessions, and congratulations on the Colleen Berry piece.
Are they huge? I guess that's good.
Yeah, man, branching out, trying something new. See if I can make this nose form here.
You had mentioned earlier about passion projects and COVID. What are both of y'all's passion projects that you have set on the table?
That's great. I definitely have like some bodies of work in my head that that I've been like sketching out and want to put some concepts that I think would be really great for like a series, and they're in kind of a sketch stage. Sort of fortunate and unfortunate at the moment. Like I have a lot of deadlines coming up, and I can't work on it quite yet. But I'm about to like start carving out time to put into it, because I most certainly want to submit it into shows and competitions, but it's not something I'm really talking too much about. But it most certainly is just a series and show that deals with the human condition. And I also have a series that I'm working on that is a little bit more Western in nature, that is with my cousin as a model, and it's part of the Reverie series. It would be in the same sort of suit as the Reverie painting I did of her. And I have about 4 more in that series to do, and a couple of them are already spoken for, and that's sort of what's funding the rest of them to be painted, and the rest of them are going to go into shows and galleries as well. So that's in the pipeline future I'm really excited about. So I grew up with horses, and I grew up on a farm, so it's really getting me a chance to like, you know, bring it back home.
Yeah, passion project. I mean, I try and make most of what I do like a passion project, because I get to paint, or I'm painting, you know, what I want. But, you know, so a past passion, I'm absolutely doing that now, but now it's like, what's the new passion? I want to just try some large multi-figure stuff, and I'm more just kind of, you know, prepping for it and trying to just get what I need to get done as fast as possible. Well, not as fast as possible, but just do what I gotta do, so eventually I can have a bit of time to start working up ideas for that. But yeah.
What's our time right now?
We have 3 minutes left.
These are such great questions, everybody. I really appreciate all of y'all submitting and asking away, and it's most certainly what this is all about for us, and it excites me to hear that everyone gets just as much enjoyment out of it as we do.
We have another question. Ridaw says, I'm a young up-and-comer. Do you think that your state of mind impacts when you paint? For example, do you paint better when you are relaxed and at peace versus at angst and mind racing?
Absolutely. like if when you're at peace and just feeling all right, and you go to paint, you can just focus so much better. But if you're feeling angsty and all this, it's pretty hard to concentrate.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure, like, in the history books, you know, you hear about the angsty artists took out their emotion on the canvas.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure they felt that at some point, but while they're, if it's any good while they're painting it, probably were
Yeah.
not that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. I think I do better when I'm at peace in my mind. And there's plenty to have angst about, right? As an artist. And so I think sometimes you have to like really find ways to get yourself in a meditative state to really enjoy the process and to I think there's some level of truth in practicing how to be peaceful in a state of unrest, you know, kind of like how to learn how to enjoy the, you know, I feel like when people work out, they talk about, you know, how to like enjoy being in the pain because of what it means. And so I think that, you know, there's so much of our worlds that's just a state of mind. And so I really believe there's sort of a Zen sort of state that you can rest in that allows for your mind to find peace in like what's the word I'm looking for? Peace in you know, I wouldn't say in torture, but in a feeling of suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember, like especially when I was learning and just like talking to people about how to like become a painter, I'm like, it's not that fun. If you actually want to get good, it's not that fun, but you have to like just kind of get stoked that you're getting better, even though it's stressful and not fun sometimes.
Yep. Well, we'll take a break. I would like to add to that once we get back from the break. Let Christian have a moment to stretch his neck. All right, everybody, we'll be back in a minute. So that means we probably have 2.5 more sessions left. You said it was 8:18. I always get up here and like then ask. I should have just looked. So, all right, yeah, we got 1.5.
Where's your little marker? So a little towards me.
Yeah, I'll let you direct that.
And then just a little bit higher, I think. Well, actually, no. Well, yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
Gail asks, what are your feelings about finding ways to make your art available to folks who do not have the disposable income of many more typical collectors?
So there's a couple of ways to do something like that. One of the ways is I tell people, like, they ask a lot of questions about, like, you know, should you give your friends discount prices and everything. I tell people that, you know, one of the things I think is to help your like professional career in one sense, I say if the person is not valuable enough to gift it to them for free, then you should still have them pay full price. The other thing is that like I intentionally, and Nicholas Uribe does this as well, intentionally try to keep my prices reasonable so that there's a larger demographic of people who can afford it. There's countless other ways to do it. So when there's fundraisers, there's usually art auctions, and so people can get it for like a cheaper price as an auction. And I've seen fundraiser art auctions and things where they do, where they basically will have like all these different works of art, and you buy a certain amount of like tickets or whatever, and each ticket has like your number. So say your number is number 12, and you can go drop, say each ticket's worth $5, you can go drop it in 3 different like cups. And when you, when at the end of the night, if like there's only 1 ticket in the cup, then that person wins that painting. But if there's like 6 tickets in the cup, then they draw for the winner. And then that person you basically have a chance to win some nice work of art for cheap, and the artist still makes a good amount of money from it, unless it's donated for a fundraising event.
They do something like that at Portrait Society, right?
Yeah, they do. They have the 6x9 show.
Something like that.
And so what they do there is basically you drop your name in the hat, and then if you draw it out, it's $600. No matter how famous the artist is, $600. So that's a great way to also do it, in my opinion. So that should, hopefully that helps with a couple of ways that people can have your stuff affordable. I mean, Alex bought the Colleen Berry very cheap because it was like, they were doing like auction stuff, right? And she was willing to sell it for a little bit cheaper for you. Is that right?
Well,
Is that how, was it an auction?
She was doing an auction for a different painting, and it ended up getting too high to where I couldn't afford it.
Oh, okay.
So then I was just like, do you have anything else lying around? She's like, sorry if these suck, but I have these. And I'm like, yeah, they were good. So that's why she sold them cheap, but yeah. Yeah, I think that's something I need to think about a bit more. Like, I mean, when I do a sketch or something, like those are cheaper, but I think like prints, something I need to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Selling some prints.
Yeah, you can do prints too. I didn't even think about that part. It's totally a way people find ways to get their painting work for affordable pricing. I think it's important too. Some artists are like, "Oh, it would cheapen your work and everything if you sell it for more affordable." And I'm like, yeah, I see people's logic there, but I just don't think it's true. Because if you're selling your work in a gallery and in an auction, it's one thing. But if you're trying to put your name out there at the beginning and you're selling your work for cheaper, it's not going to like brand you as a cheaper artist.
Yeah.
So I think so many people are so scared of being branded as this cheap artist, and nobody's talking about what they paid for their painting with other people.
Yeah, and usually you're not putting the price just like completely
out in
there.
public. Yeah. So it's like, I don't think that should be too much of an issue. Is he turned too much forward to you? Or
Yeah.
can you move over to your left? And then up just a little bit. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just like, my own personal thoughts about it, but I actually think it's good. For the longest time, I always thought it was an honor that I'd have old dear friends from home who have seen me grow up and saw me drawing when I was a kid, and and they wanted to buy something and they could afford it. So people in my hometown, I try to keep a price reasonable for them, because I kind of find it an honor that they've followed me all these years, and we're excited about what was happening in my life, and thought that was fun and cool.
Yeah, my uncle still brings up every time I see him how I charged him $100 for a portrait drawing of him and my aunt.
Love it.
Because you said something like, if they're not dear enough to you to do it for free, I'm like, yeah, I charge my uncle.
Oh, I love it.
But that's the thing too, is like, sometimes people that you really love want very extravagant things that's gonna take a lot of your time.
Yeah.
You're like, I just can't do that.
It's funny because like I have a couple of those on order from family members, and I'm like, just letting you know, yeah, you might get it for cheap, but might also not get it for like 6 years.
Yeah.
I'll do it, but I'll eventually do it.
When I just have nothing else to do and I feel like doing that.
Christian's a trooper over here, man. He's killing it. Killing it, dragging it home, feeding the family.
First I thought you were coming up with some nickname that started with dragon. Like Dragon Homie or something.
As an artist, what is a value that you will not compromise on in your work or settle for?
Ooh.
I don't know if I really understand that.
Like,
So you can,
what is something you will not do if someone asks you to do it in your work?
Oh,
I think that's what the question is really getting.
anything I don't want to do. Yeah, have you had any like asks during, like, for portrait commissions that you're like,
Oh yeah.
nah, I'm just not doing that?
It's funny because like I don't even think about it now that they are things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do it, because it's really about how I approach them that makes it not feel like it's that way. So like if I'm going to do it from a photo, I have to take the photo. That's like a big, rule that I've had too many situations where people are like, oh, well, I loved my son in the back, he was in the back seat of the van, and I took this picture with like a flash, and it's my son and my daughter that are like, got their arms around each other, and it's like all blown out. You can't see anything but like their eyes. And, and I tell them, what I tell them typically is, that's a beautiful picture for the memory, because I know that's why you love it, is because it's like y'all were going to Disney World or something, And I said, but that is great as a photo, but it does not make a good painting. And so if you're going to spend thousands of dollars on a painting, it better be something that's worth painting for thousands of dollars, you know,
Yeah.
and not just like a candid shot. So I tell them that, you know, it'll be something that I actually choose. You turn your head to the left again. Keep on going. Yep.
Calvin asks, how long or often do you experiment with your painting process?
Well, I'm experimenting now. I would say every painting there's something I'm experimenting with. There's a new artist I'm looking at. There's something I'm trying that's different. I think it's good as an artist to challenge yourself in a different way every time.
Yeah, I would agree that, and even sometimes you like mad at yourself that you did it. You're like, I couldn't just stick to one simple formula. I have to change it every time, because like you end up, it kind of like ends up like it's new, so it's has its own troubles or whatever. So. Yeah, whether it's like a lighting situation, like painting someone in sunlight, which, you know, like for the first time, or now I want to work on linen and I want to do every step of the process myself, and I want to sand and be able to scrape and all this, so I can't use lead in this painting. I'll just, yeah, constantly.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely experiment all the time and encourage people to experiment all the time.
Do either of you have any funny stories of experimenting gone wrong?
I had to think about that one for a second. I bet you I do. You know, sometimes I feel like when you're in front of like an audience and say you're doing a demo, you know, you kind of like put on the spot. And there's something about being put on the spot that almost makes you question the technique you've always done. And you get up there and you're like, I think I'm going to change all of this up. And I remember I was in Atlanta a while back, and I was doing a demo in front of the Portrait Society, and Portrait Society of Atlanta, and I had done a demo earlier that day and taught all day that day, and it was in the evening that they wanted me to come after my workshop and share with them. So I was like, oh sure, yeah, why not, you know? So I go, and I get there, and so one of the experiments being that, oh, I wonder how I'll do demoing after I have already done one demo today and taught all day. And like, I was just like, my eyes were so tired, and I remember like going, I'm not even confident. I'm gonna just try this new thing. And I like started in a whole different area and started trying this new stuff. And the next thing I knew, I was like, oh man, I've got a situation here. And I think, you know, I had about 150 eyes looking at me, and I was like, I've got to bring this one back to life. And it was like the last session, like I ended up like finding the likeness. Is like, okay, I think I got it, and like quickly like pushed into that. And everybody was like, oh, wow, it was so cool, like all the way to the end. I didn't know what was happening. And all of a sudden, you was like magic, and you made this thing happen. And I was like, yeah, that's what happened.
That's part of my shtick.
That's part of my whole thing. So, but that was most certainly an experiment gone wrong. I will never do a demo in the day and then do a demo that night, you know, while teaching and being that tired.
Alex, Gail wants to know which brush you are using right now.
It is from Rosemary, a synthetic round, a Michael Klein series brush. I'm not sure what size it is because they seem to rub off the size. Yeah, it's probably like a 3 or a 4. Typically I use flats when I'm doing alla prima, but I've kind of picked up this brush and never put it down. And maybe that's why I'm also using a bit more paint so that it lays down well and doesn't like lift off the other paint.
What lighting setup do you recommend? 5000K, daylight light bulb, but how many lamps do you use? I made a mistake recently where I painted in a room too dark and I had to repaint. Thanks.
Oh, that's a good question, because you can paint in too dark, but you can also paint in too light. You know, there actually is sort of like, if you had a light meter, sort of a what would work best scenario. But I would say that if I were, I think that you should paint, if you were in like a really bright over like interior room at nighttime, like if you had like a lot of lights on, like can lighting, where it was turned all the way up as bright as it can. That's about as bright as I would paint in, because I find that if I paint really, really bright, then my values get really dark and really muddy. But if I paint really dark, I can't see color. And so like you start losing the ability to see color. So you have to find like this crazy happy medium between the two.
Yeah, it takes a lot of experimenting. Definitely, like if you have a painting that you feel like you have done well in value, to like bring that over into your light until that painting looks right.
All right, so how much time is left on this? Let's see, 8:42. So we might do like one really long session. I'd love it if we could have like an extra 15 minutes that I didn't get at the very beginning to kind of finish it out, you know, on top of that. So like maybe go to 9:15.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody, we're gonna take another 5-minute break and we'll kind of go to 9:15. Longish session. So here we go. After I've got something down, especially if it's like an alla prima painting and I feel like, you know, everything works with everything, and you gotta like make sure that you're like giving a full-on look to everything. So I'm like checking the green. The green is just a touch warm, which is cooling off the face a little bit. So if I want the face to warm up and I want that orange to hit, I've got to make sure that in association to it, background has a little more cool blue in there.
Angelo says, between my profession and 3 children, I have little time to be a part of an art community. Lewis and Alex, you make a great company while I fit in time in my home studio. Thank you for the production.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We love that we're inspiring you for all the small moments that you're able to capture. You know, I know it's so hard. There's so many moms that are just heroes out there that it's tough to carve out that time because you're devoting your whole life to them. So, but we're honored to be a part of it, and happy that you feel that you can find a few moments here and there. Just remember, it's your own therapy, you know. This is kind of like some people just need it for their own sanity, and what a great escape you have. That's all of a sudden gotten really quiet. Some people should tell us where they're signing in from around the world. I know that y'all are out there, y'all are international fellow friends. We're always so happy that y'all are joining us, wherever it might be from.
We have someone tuning in from New Jersey,
Jersey.
and they say, thank you so much for making these contents free.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing any paintings you might have done to paint along with us. And if not, and we're just there for your entertainment, we love that too. So, any way you slice it. Christian is sporting an epic stash these days. But He's remaining stoic even though I'm trying to make him smile. See how professional of a model he really is.
We have a fun question. What are the future directions of the East Oak studio?
Oh man, there's always stuff we have going on. We have some exciting things in the pipeline that will be announced in about a month or so. Maybe a little less, that we're kind of waiting for a second, but I would love for y'all to stay tuned because it's just going to be fun, exciting things going on. We have a couple of guest stars coming in this next month, but we're going to not to do them live. We're going to have them part of a recording, and it'll be part of all of these other exciting things that we have going on. You know, one of the things that we continue to get excited about is our community is growing. You know, we have people like Kristen, who's behind the switcherboard, whose lovely voice y'all are hearing, and then we've had another gentleman by the name of Nicholas who's been interning here, and so we're slowly growing every time, each year, with a few more people added to our group, and that's, you know, eventually we want to be able to invite people from all over to participate one time or another with what East Oaks is doing, and so that you can experience this not only globally but maybe through workshops and other things locally. And you know, so there's always expansions that we're trying to do with our online mentorship and you know, presence with creating content that's educational and helpful, but also trying to grow locally what's going on around here, you know, in this area. So stay tuned. Sorry if it sounds cryptic, it's just we have some things we're just going to keep on plugging away until we feel like they're ready for everyone to be able to enjoy them.
Felicity writes, "Hello from New Zealand. Love what you guys are doing at East Oaks. I have learned so much from you."
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. New Zealand.
Man, one day I'd love to go travel to New Zealand. We'll have to come by, stop by when we're there.
Another question asks, when do you think your taste matured, stop changing, as an artist, if ever?
Well, I definitely don't think it's I think it is most certainly a constant thing that changes. You know, I think it'll be in flux the rest of my life. And it's just, as you continue to consume and look at what other people are doing, your tastes continue to shift. You know, it's slow and it's over time, but I most certainly believe that people continue to change. I don't know if that was helpful, but that's most certainly how I feel about it. So I don't know if there was a time at which I do think there's a time that my eye started getting sharper, and I think that was when I was trained, when I was in training in the atelier program, and I was just looking at work with a different set of eyes. So I definitely think that there's moments where I saw a different shift in my ability to see what people were trying to do. So for that, I think, yeah, definitely was kind of a seminal moment. But it's most certainly not the only one.
Yeah, I feel like after studying with Odd, Nerdrum, and then coming to East Oaks, so spending like a few months at Odds, and then you're coming to East Oaks around you, Michael, and Josh, there was just like a lot of good quality paintings everywhere. Like something kind of matured and clicked, after that. But it keeps changing and keep trying new things, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
Your gallery might not like it.
Yeah.
But
Oh. Good point. I think I could keep painting on this for another 4 hours. How do you feel, Christian?
Feeling good.
We have 15 minutes.
15 minutes left, great. Yeah, the biggest thing now that I'm like trying to like do is like what can I do with the amount of time I have left, and one of them is like, balance the warm and cool. Quick.
yeah, you kind of got to make a decision. Do I want to keep going on the face or try and make an interesting,
Yeah.
composed like canvas?
So many choices, so many decisions.
Lewis asks, when a painting already looks good, how do you decide when it's done?
His name's Lewis? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a strong name you got there, man. I like it. I think that what I tell a lot of people when I'm teaching is when you feel like the entire painting, if you don't know what else to do, let's just start with that. You don't know if there's anything else to do, but you feel that the painting in its entirety, that all the marks and all the strokes that you've done in the painting feel like they belong in sort of the same universe that you've created, and that nothing feels like out of place, but balanced with its color throughout the whole piece, its mark making throughout the whole piece, then that's when I say you can either make a decision to go deeper with like the piece if you find that there's areas you can go, but if the commitment is like way more than you feel that you should make in the painting, then I say then it's time to stop, as long as everything in the painting feels that it balances itself and feels like it belongs in the same universe. Because we could paint on the same paintings for forever. So I know I could. I could just stay with the same painting and not move for the rest of my life probably. But when it comes down to it, I think you have to figure out what decisions you're going to make to say stop, because you're just going to like surrender to it, and the signature you put on there is like you're signing off the documents of surrender. So that's one of the signs I'm like, okay, this painting has kind of reached its potential.
Cutie Pepe says, tell Christian you look fun to hang out with.
Christian is so much fun to hang out with.
Do you know this person?
Christian and I go play disc golf a lot. And we have a lot of fun because he loves to compete and loves to get outside and outdoors. It's gotten really quiet. I think everybody's like decided all the questions have been answered. Christian, you're gonna have to make sure you reward Christian with a good disc golf game out on the field. After all his hard work. Who's ever modeled out there or hasn't modeled it's not easy, man. Most certainly a challenge to hold a pose, especially if you're like leaning forward like he's doing, to hold a pose that long.
Milad asks, with lockdown, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep drawing?
Well, actually, the lockdown is what's helped me stay motivated to keep drawing, because it's kind of like, well, if I'm here, might as well keep at it. So that the other thing is we all live in the same house, and so we get to like, it's kind of like we have a built-in community. So that's been kind of nice and helpful as well.
Yeah, for people that usually go to sketch nights and stuff, I've been doing, there's just like some free, like basically figure model sessions on YouTube that I've just been doing, like quick sketches and stuff. And that's been really cool, just like little
That's
1 minute,
awesome.
2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute things.
Yeah, that's great, man. I didn't know that.
I do it in secret.
Oh, you secret guy, you thought I knew everything about you, Alex. You think you know a guy.
You know nothing.
Let's see what time we're getting to be here.
She is 9 a.m.
All right, getting close.
Oscar says, really beautiful work, guys. And then
Thank you,
Cutie
Oscar.
responded with, do you recommend any websites to get good portrait and figurative reference photos? I have a hard time finding good old nude pose photo for practice.
Alex?
I believe it's called Studio Graphite or Graphit, Grafit. They've like put out some like model packages that look pretty interesting. I know New Masters Academy has like good ones, but pretty sure you have to be signed up for their thing to be able to use it.
Yeah.
It costs money every month. That's all I really know. I'm trying to think, there's this artist I follow, I think Brian Assel something. I'm not sure. But I know that there's people have been doing stuff just with like models have been doing Zoom sessions of like model sessions and stuff, but nothing I can really remember the name of.
All right, we got how many minutes left?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Now it's like the time where I like freak out and start like screwing the whole thing up.
So 2 viewers have written in that Pose Space has model packs that you can buy or single photos, and then Croquis Cafe has great model sessions with downloadable photos, or excuse me, Croatia Cafe.
Ooh, Croatia.
Awesome.
That's kind of cool.
Mustafa Mahmoud
Mahmood, yeah.
says 2 great paintings and beautiful composition by Alex. I will watch it again because I missed it.
Oh, well, it's great to hear from you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lewis again asks, do you feel that you have to be born with a gift to be a good painter, or it can be developed from practice?
I most certainly believe that you're born with a capacity to learn things quicker or things come a little more natural. But I also believe that the people that are successful, that if you spend a lot of time devoting to it, you most certainly can learn it. There's no doubt in my mind. It just takes tenacity, honestly.
Yeah, screw natural talent. I don't.
I know a lot of people that have that and don't use it. It's overrated.
It is 9:13.
Sweet. I like the updates. They help me.
Andrea asks, wondering at what age did you both start painting in oils? Do you think there's an optimal age range to start or certain skill set to acquire before painting?
No skill set that you requires before painting, I don't think. And I say the younger the better, honestly. I wish I had started painting in oils when I was younger. I didn't. I waited till much later. I think drawing is just as important though, and as long as you're drawing and painting, then have at it.
Yeah, I think I did my first oil painting when I was like 18 or something. And then, but it wasn't like anything serious. So, whenever you have the time to dedicate time.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh man. Well, thank you so much, Christian. Everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, as always. Make sure if you want to know more about what we're doing, please sign up for our email when we always make announcements for whenever we're doing this. Also, make sure if you really like what we're doing and want to be alerted every time on YouTube when we do these, please feel free to subscribe and then click the little bell and like us if you enjoyed this. Please give us comments, tell us what you think. We're always wanting to serve our community, and y'all are just as important to us as the people that are here painting with us. So we look forward to seeing you again. Have a great night.